We want to take some time now to revisit our big story from last night. If you missed it, we talked about how Governor Kate Brown is commuting sentences of more than 70 people. These are people who, as teens, were convicted of the most violent crimes, things like murder, rape, and assault. Now, this doesn't mean that anyone on that list will be released right away, but they will have the chance in the coming months to have their sentences reviewed. This comes after the state of Oregon changed the way teenagers are sentenced. For decades, going back to the 90s, they were tried and sentenced as adults for those violent crimes. But in the last couple of years, that began to change, in part because of research that shows teenagers are less in control of their actions than adults.
The science shows a couple of things. One, that young people are more prone to impulsive, high-risk decisions. We know that they're more vulnerable to peer pressure, and we also know that they have enormous capacity for change.
Again, this was our big story last night. You can watch the entire story on our KGW YouTube page right now, but we wanted to give you some of the feedback that we got, show you what we got in our inbox. Jack summed it up like this, quote, "Their brains aren't fully developed, and their ability to think through consequences and stop impulses to act is severely limited. Combined with the vast majority of criminals being victims of trauma, most of those kids can 100% be rehabilitated with a lot of therapy and ability to grow and mature." Now, we talked with Dr. Nick Sotelo at MacLaren Youth Facility. That's where some of the male teenagers serve their sentences.
Had a young person who reached into a car that was parked on the side of the street, put it in neutral and pushed it down a hill, right? And that was a rush. And it was a big rush until at the very end, unfortunately, that car pinned somebody against a building. Now, that wasn't that person's thought about it, but we conceived that an adult might think, yeah, I probably shouldn't push that or shift that car in neutral, push it down a hill because it might hit somebody, right? That's thinking that we would attribute to an adult, consequential thinking. But a young person with his buddies are sitting there like, hey, let's do this, and not thinking about how this might actually end up being a really bad thing, and then being able to use that type of adult thinking to then stop the behavior in the moment, right? And that's something that, again, adolescence is a period in phase of learning by trial and error. And so that's something that the new statute requires, that in the review of the case and the sentencing process, that the young person's youthful status and actual status of brain development needs to be part of the considerations before sentencing is determined.
And so that's that doctor's opinion. Dr. Sotelo agreed that these kids can change in his mind, even if they did something awful. He says he's seen it happen time and again. But many of the prosecutors who work on these cases absolutely disagree. The Marion County DA talked about it with Laurel Porter on Straight Talk.
These are very serious offenses. These are not property offenses or public nuisance offenses. These are the worst kinds of crimes that one human being can commit against another.
It's a complex discussion. As you can see, you can watch more of this discussion tonight at Straight Talk, on Straight Talk at 7 o'clock right here on KGW. All right, keep sending in your questions and your comments to thestory@kgw.com. Find us on social media. Use that hashtag, thestoryKGW. We're going to finish the show right after this.